Okay. Well, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chris here. Um, it- so there's nowhere to really get into this. Last night AEW committed the biggest self-own I've ever seen a professional company do by airing the footage from All In where CM Punk got into his backstage altercation with Jack Perry. Now, just for the backstory here, we all know about the interview CM Punk did, on last Monday, leading into WrestleMania, and he kind of told his side of the story. So, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, during Collision, AEW announces that they're going to air this footage. Why no one told Tony Khan that this was a terrible idea, I have no fucking clue. Okay, this was a bad idea from jump, and I said it in my last video that anybody with any type of any power in that company or any type of advisory role needs to tell him not to fucking do it. It's not going to do anything good for them. And to say it backfired is a complete understatement of what the fuck happened last night. I watched the footage, and it basically showed everything CM Punk fucking said to be the God's honest truth. Dummy Jack Perry had his match, right? Had his match, went out, and, he confronted him like, dude, what the fuck was that? Jack Perry said, stuff to him. And let me say this as an older person. If I confront somebody about something they did and they say to me, what are you going to do about it? That's kind of an invitation to get your ass kicked. I'm sorry. There's a certain age group where if you say that to them, you need to be ready to get hit or jacked up or hemmed up or something, because that's going to be the next step. And Punk kind of is like, dude, you hear more back and forth, and then he pushes him to get him away. Perry tries to come at him, and he puts him in like a front face lock. At which point, Samoa Joe picks him up and carries him away like a baby. And Perry, looking completely like a dipshit, never goes back at Punk. Now, here's the part that I'm going to get into that a lot of people haven't talked about. Now, Tony Khan said he feared for his life. Now, there is a point where CM Punk kind of walks towards him because he reaches his hand from behind the monitor like, no, no. Like a cat pawing at something, I guess, to try to do something, when one of the agents came from around the fucking monitors and tried to break it up. In addition to Samoa Joe, you had Jerry Lynn, you had other people there break it up, But Tony, that's what made him fear for his life? That's what made him fear for his life? That whole altercation made him go on national television and say he feared for his life. I've seen worse altercations between two people on a street corner, straight up, in a fist fight, to where they're swinging and somebody gets knocked the fuck out, or there's blood flying. I've been in worse fights than what the fuck that was. I've seen people get knocked the fuck out in a fight. Okay? I've seen people get slammed into the ground. I've seen fights. This was nothing. This was nothing. And it didn't do a goddamn thing for AEW. In fact, everyone's been joking them about this. this completely took away from like if I was Adam Copeland, I'd be fucking pissed right now. Cause they had him go out and cut that fucking promo last week that made him look like a fucking this basically shit in his mouth. That was a fuck you to him. It was a fuck you to the FTR guys who cut their similar promo on Collision. It was a fuck you to like a bunch of other people. Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe. That showing this footage was a huge fuck you to your entire roster. Because if you leave AEW, and it's already been done in the past, if you leave AEW and there's any type of like ill will, this is what they're gonna fucking do to you. You understand? They're gonna do you like this. So if you're Malachi Black or Miro and you're unhappy and you want to get out, you better hope the hell like you now know how to get out. You know, make Tony fear for his life and he'll fire you. But he'll also go out of his way to try to make you look bad. So this is what he tried to do to Punk. And it backfired like a motherfucker. It made him look completely inept. It made Adam Copeland and giving that rah-rah speech look like an asshole. It made... What did this do to build up a fucking thing for AEW? It didn't build up Samoa Joe versus Swerve Strickland. It didn't build up Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm. It didn't build up Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta. Not that I give a shit, but it's there. It didn't build up the Gun Club versus, or the Bang Bang Gang versus the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. It didn't build up Julia Hart versus Willow Nightingale. It didn't build up shit that's coming up on Dynasty. And the fact that the Young Bucks tried to weave it into their bullshit story with FTR and say they were so consumed with dealing with this that they couldn't focus on the match they had. That's why FTR beat them. Fuck out of here with that. That's bullshit. And it didn't work. And you could tell FTR wasn't happy because of how they came out there. And they're like, the fuck was the point of this? It's 8 months ago. We want to move on. Shit's over. Instead of talking about what we're doing, we're talking about a guy that didn't even work here anymore. What the fuck? You can see over Tony Schiavone's face how embarrassed he was. And he was a part of WCW when it died. He's been down this road. This shit was AEW's fucking finger poke of doom moment. All perpetuated because some people in that company who run shit can't fucking don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they become a spike mill. And now there are reports coming out that the Bucks didn't want to do that. Bull fucking shit, they didn't want to do it. Last week, they put out a tweet saying, air the footage. So, of course, that's bullshit. They absolutely wanted to do it. You know, I'm not even getting the Will Ospreay stupid ass comment about Triple H in the grind, because that was fucking weak sauce too. Like, we haven't heard people say that about Hunter for like 20 fucking years. It was old then, it's old now, and it did nothing but clearly got under his skin because he talked about it. Hunter never mentioned his fucking name. And in his interview about why he signed with AEW, he mentioned the schedule. He mentioned being able to work in less states. He mentioned those things. So Ospreay put himself in a situation where he could be criticized for not really wanting to, work or grind, so to speak. with his own fucking words. But that's beside the point. The main point of this is how bad this was for AEW. Even the staunchest AEW defenders are out there like this was a horrible fucking move. Because they know it didn't do anything good for the company. This was a disaster. A complete disaster of a move last night. And it any goodwill they had is gone. Like, a couple of Toonie Talk Wrestling said this last night, and I agree with it. They even played the clip of the Saved by the Bell Zach Morris AC Slater fight, and how that was more of an altercation than Jack Perry and CM Punk. And they're right. The difference is, at least Zach got a punch in before Slater beat that ass. Jack Perry didn't get a chance to do shit. He didn't get a chance to do anything. And speaking of Jack Perry, could you have made that kid look like more of a bitch than you did? Like, to quote the scene from The Crow regarding Jack Perry, there ain't no coming back. 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 He's in Japan. He needs to stay his ass in Japan. Because if the idea was to use this by the Young Bucks to bring him back as part of the elite, he will never, ever live down the fact that he got his ass kicked like he did. I'm not even laughing at him. I'm laughing at what they did to him last night. That kid's done. He's more done than Wardlow is done. Like, Wardlow's done. Jack Perry is done. There will be no rehabilitation for him. There will be no salvaging of him. It's over for that kid. And he brought on himself. He fucked around and he found out. Okay? That's what that was. He decided he was going to be all hard. And really, and to be blunt, it never should have gotten to the point where it got to with him. Because the second he was insubordinate on Collision, where he was cussing out Shivani and cussing out agents and cussing out the doctor, before Punk said, nah, we don't do that here. If you want to do that, go on Dynamite and do that. Before he got dragged into it, after he cussed everybody else out, he would have been fired for that shit. Then to go out on fucking television and on a live pay-per-view in front of the biggest show that AEW's done, and to go into business for himself like he did, and to call out with their top star, Tony Khan should have fired him on the spot right there. But again, as Punk said, he said, yo, will you do something about this? What do you want me to do? I'm not going to tell you what to do. What the fuck? Either you handle it or I'll handle it. Tony didn't handle it, so Punk fucking did. And I have no problem with that. He clearly didn't want to be in the position where he had to do it. So he went to Tony and said, can you please do something? Be a fucking boss. For fuck's sake. Be a boss. For once in your fucking existence. Be a competent business person. Or a competent owner of this fucking company. And do something about this. Because this is getting fucking ridiculous. And he's like, oh. So Punk just went, fuck it, Thanos did, I'll do it myself. So he put on his Infinity Gauntlet and he handled it himself. Even wrestlers are on Punk's side in this. Chris Bay stuck up for him. Cedric Alexander stuck up for him. Bully Ray, who basically said, like, yo, like, this was bad. for AEW even airing that shit. It didn't help anybody, but it helped. It made CM Punk look like a fucking badass. You know? Like, he came off looking like gold in this. Like, he really did. He got free publicity on the other company's programming, and the fans were even in his corner after they saw it. He was getting CM Punk chants while it was airing, and when the Young Bucks did a run-in later that night, they were chanting CM Punk at those motherfuckers. So it didn't work. Congratulations, Tony. You made a bigger star out of a guy that hasn't worked for you in 8 months, who is the second biggest babyface on the biggest wrestling show in the world. Congratulations, Tony. You fucked up massively. This was one of the biggest botches that any promotion has done. This is Herb Abrams' cocaine-fueled levels of fucking dumb. Like, this was stupid. It did nothing for AEW. It hurt. It did nothing for anyone working in AEW. It built to nothing important. And it made your competition's star even more popular. The fact that CM Punk was trending #1 after it aired, and no one was talking about Dynamite itself, says everything that needs to be said. And when the ratings come out for last night and for Dynamite, holy shit. If it didn't draw a rating, if they don't do at least 8, like, if they don't draw anything from this, they're fucked. Okay? Like, you can forget, like, all the stuff about the TV deal comment and all that. Ain't going. After that, if I'm Turner, they'll be lucky if they stay on TNT or TBS. They get booted to True TV or some ID Discovery or some shit. But they damn sure wouldn't be on one of my headline prime networks at this point, because they gotta fucking go. And at this point, they deserve to fucking go, because that shit was dumb. Like, how there's no defense for it either. I know people are gonna come into the comments on this video, and when I post it up, they're gonna say, "Oh, you're just defending you're just anti-AEW." I'm not anti-AEW. When they first started, I rooted for AEW. Competition in the wrestling business keeps it from getting stagnant like it was when WCW died. When ECW died. Impact wasn't quite that competition that we wanted it to be. They're good, they're still around, and they're doing good shit now, but they never got to where they could have gotten to through a series of errors. AEW in 5 years is already doing that shit. They're doing shit worse than WCW did. They're doing shit worse than UWF did. They're doing shit worse than Impact did. And for anybody that doesn't see that, I don't know what to fucking tell you. I really don't. You're refusing to accept the empirical reality that is happening in front of your eyes when it comes to AEW. But they're a fucking mess. Their company's a mess. Their ownership, their leadership has no idea what they're doing. And I don't know what would fix it other than Tony Khan getting out of leadership. I mean, this was dumb. You made Jack Perry look completely like you killed that kid. You killed anything with that kid that you could possibly have done with him coming back. Tony Khan looks like a total pussy after this whole thing. Like, feared for his life. That made him fear for his life. You've got to be fucking kidding me. And anybody who says, like, oh, he's just, you're being too hard on him. No, that's soft as baby shit. It's soft. He's a pussy. Straight up. He went on national television and said that made him fear for his life. No one made him say that part. He didn't have to say it. He put that out into the world. And now we saw the events for ourselves, and we're all saying that's made you fear for your life. Okay, you're soft. You're just okay. If that made you fear for your life, I hope your girlfriend or whatever, boyfriend, whatever, I don't know about his personal life, I don't fucking care. Whatever significant other it is or may be, I hope they know how to fight because he's gonna run. He ain't built for that. Clearly. That's the one thing I know about. Like, I know that my family appreciates me for. Like, if something were to happen or someone were to accost us, that I'm not going to up and run or cower away from a situation. I'm not going to let somebody just do whatever to my spouse or my stepkids or my godkids or like a friend of mine that can't defend themselves. So I know people appreciate that about me. Tony Khan would leave you getting mugged or whatever the fuck as he'd run. And he showed that with his fucking, like, I feared for my life. Okay. Okay. That you have zero balls, dude, if you fear for your life from that. Wait. My God. Oh. Alright. So I think I've talked enough about that. I'm gonna go to God, for fuck's sake, anything fucking else other than like talk anymore about this fucking awful, pathetic shit that I saw last night. I'm gonna get some like whiskey or something to drown this out, because I just can't right now. Like, people have shown themselves to be soft, and I before I go, actually, let me give credit to where credit is due. JD from NY206, Solar Monster, Wrestling Soup, who's going on right now when I stopped listening to him to do this video. They are the only podcasts at this moment. Oh, and Toonie Talk Wrestling. They had to take it down because they got struck. But they are the only podcasts or video channels who's talked about this in any type of real, honest way. As far as what they felt about it, what they feel about these fucking journalists out here who fucking cover for AEW because they don't want to lose access to AEW and all of that. Like, they talked about all of it. And they're the only ones that talked about it. And I gotta give them their respect for that. Because they're the only ones who've been talking about it. So JD, Jason, Mish, Joey, Marvin the Movie Monster, Evil Dose, Apollo, AEW Disciplinary Committee, Neckbeards. Respect to you guys for telling it like it is and being out there and being real about this shit. And actually having an honest take on what we saw last night. Having an honest take on it. I hope I'm living up to that with what I'm saying here. Because I was just like, this was the dumbest shit I've ever seen. It did nothing for it did nothing but hurt AEW. And I said it was going to do nothing but hurt them. And I was right. Like, they gained not a single fucking fan from this, but they probably lost a bunch. And that's sad, because they couldn't get out of their own fucking way. Anyway, with that said, now it's time to hit the liquor and make some, or maybe a glass of wine. I got a bunch of wine here I got to drink. So I'll hit a glass of wine instead of the bourbon or whiskey, because I'm saving the whiskey. But either way, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Peace.